I'm a slave in my own life. You are too. You think you're not a slave, you're a slave to your own design. I'll be very specific here. This title is a little bit unique. It's what are you being a slave to? And if you think you're not a slave to yourself, you're totally wrong. We're all slaves in our own design. I'm gonna be very specific about the ways that I was a slave in my life. Starting in elementary school, I loved to sing. In chorus class, I was louder than all the kids in the class. And the chorus teacher asked me to stay after school. And she asked me to join the chorus club. And I told her no, because the cool kids didn't do that. I was a slave to popularity back in elementary school. Fast forward, in my 20s, I was a slave to insecurity. I was insecure by nature, looking for the approval of everyone else. I remember being a slave to my hair, my receding hairline. I would wear hats all the time to try and hide it. And then one day I just decided to take the hat off and shave my head, and I was so free of that. I'm out here in Maserati in Colombia, this huge, huge church on the top of a mountain. Apparently, we just climbed 1,650 steps. And my mother-in-law is handling it like a boss, 65 years old, cancer survivor. And I'm proud of her because I seen about a quarter of the way through her wanting to give up. I seen her being a slave to her own doubt, to her own negative self-talk, if you will. And I seen her overcome it and smash it. By the end, we were passing younger people up on the mountain itself, and she was just stepping it out like a warrior. And it had me thinking about the ways that I'm a slave in my own life. You are too. You think you're not a slave, you're a slave to your own design. I'll be very specific here. Just recently, I realized that I was a slave to creating videos that I didn't even really feel impelled to do, simply for the algorithm purposes, trying to get likes, comments, trying to go viral. I was a slave to being viral, if you will. And what I seen is I was losing the congruency of what this was all about in the first place. When I first started this channel, it was about my freedom. It's about your freedom. It's about expanding our comfort zones, growing every single day, smashing, the limited beliefs that we had yesterday to become more free every day thereafter. I realized I was still being a slave to the approval of others, to the algorithm itself. My last video about drop shipping not being dead. I really believe in that. Drop shipping is not dead. It's provided me a freedom that I couldn't ever believe that I would have as of today. But that's not the reason why I shot it. I shot it to try and get the algorithm to work in my favor, to get likes, to get comments, to get subscribers. So in my 20s, I really started breaking down the approval seeking. I decided to branch out and play poker for a living. And this gave me a freedom that was huge. But everybody wasn't telling me not to do this. And by me breaking down that caring of what other people thought, I was able to cultivate a lifestyle that I truly loved. Fast forward, I was a slave to my own comfort zones. And how I really started to smash through this was being around very beautiful women. When I would get around people that I had a lot of respect for, business owners or just guys that were just crushing in life, or very beautiful women itself, for whatever reason, I would just radiate this awkward energy. I would be very uncomfortable, and that awkward energy, if you will, would be felt by other people. It was just weird. So I would resist this and I would stay within my comfort zone. And ironically, the poker table became my comfort zone. So at the poker table, I was totally fine, totally comfortable. But get me away from that environment, I wasn't. So I decided to tackle this by approaching beautiful women over and over again, like right after another. And every single night, I didn't want to go out, but I did it anyways. I got around other guys that was taking action as well. And this led to me even cultivating something else. And that was being an asset to other guys. I ended up becoming a dating coach for a little bit, and I loved it. I helped other guys get outside of their comfort zone and push their boundaries of what they thought was possible. Yet, this was always something I wanted to do on camera. I always wanted to translate that, to give that to more people, if you will. Yet, I was a slave to the camera itself. Still am to a certain extent. I was a slave to turning on the camera and then going blank and not being able to be in flow. As you can see, I'm pushing my boundaries with that. Now, just recently, I realized I was a slave to the likes and the algorithms and trying to go viral and all that fucking bullshit. In my late 20s, I realized I was a slave to my possessions. I was a slave to the things that I accumulated, the junk, if you will. My wife and I now travel out of a car. And if it doesn't fit in the car, it doesn't go. And we aspire to even crunching that down to just suitcases. Being able to travel and go at any point and not being a slave to your things, man, it's so huge. And I see that this is not a common thing. I see a lot of people are slave to their possessions. I created this channel for freedom, for my freedom, for your freedom, that we get to become freer every day. So this freedom lifestyle that my wife and I have is awesome when it comes to traveling, but we don't always have the best shooting environments, the audio quality. The church right now is in service, so they're back and forth with the music. But where I wanted to turn this was on you. You know, where are areas in your life that you're being a slave to by your design? What are the thought processes that hold you back? Is there dreams that you've always had and desires that you wanted to accomplish that's not getting done because of whatever reason? The approval of other people, what other people might say, if you might fail, whatever it may be. Are you a slave to possessions? Are you a slave to self-doubt, insecurity, negative self-talk? The great thing about all this stuff is when you overcome it, there's more belief, self-respect, courage from taking action in these areas that hold us back, this own self-prison of our design. That's the major part. It wasn't God's fault that I was going bald. It was just random. The fact that I was a slave to being bald was a whole different subject. It wasn't until I took off my hat and shaved my head that I found that freedom. It wasn't until I sold my possessions and started traveling with my wife that I found that freedom. It wasn't until I turned on the damn camera and started to speak that I start to find this freedom. Where are the areas that is holding you back? What can you do today to take action and push against that? The greatest part about all this is, as we grow, we find other areas that we don't even know yet of slavery. Check out this backdrop. You can see the city completely. And like seeing things from this vantage point is incredible because you have a bird's eye view. As we grow, we have a bird's eye view in our own lives. I'm a slave to certain things that I don't even know about yet because as I push against my boundaries, I start to see things from a different vantage point. As you get higher, you see things from a different vantage point. You see things more clearly. So back to you. What's the one thing today in your life that you know is holding you back? You know that you're a slave to. What could you do today to take your freedom back? It feels good to be back in alignment, to be congruent with what this channel was all about. My freedom, your freedom, our freedom together. Much love.